Welcome back to my Road to Marvel's Black Widow series. This week we're in week 4, which means we're talking about Thor. So of course Thor was our introduction to, Thor. We got Loki, we got Odin, and it was directed by Kenneth Branagh, who, if you don't know, he is Lockhart from the Harry Potter series.
I didn't get rid of the band and banshee by smiling at them.
And for the most part of this movie, I think he does a fine job, but one of the things that stood out to me the most was the really odd choice of using a Dutch angle. Now, if you don't know what a Dutch angle is, this is a Dutch angle. And I found it to be really weird and really kind of a strange choice. A lot of scenes are playing out and all of a sudden we're getting that angle, which I'm not really a fan of. I kind of thought it was a bit odd of a choice to have Thor's movie being filmed, especially because maybe if it's continued on with the second movie and the third movie continuing on with that kind of way of being filmed, I wouldn't notice it as much. But the fact that this is the only Thor movie and the only MCU movie to be filmed this way, I kind of thought it was a little bit odd. But he does get the Shakespearean kind of way of speaking and the way of everything acts very Shakespearean. It really works well because they don't really do it. He tries in the second movie, not Kenneth Branagh, but the actual director of that, who I don't know who it is. He tries there, doesn't really succeed. But what Kenneth Branagh does in this movie, I think he does succeed in getting kind of the Shakespearean way of doing things. I think he just nailed that perfectly in this movie, and it just kind of set up really continue on well within the first Avengers movie. And then the casting in this movie, of course, you have Anthony Hopkins playing Odin, which is just phenomenal. The scene in particular that really makes me love Anthony Hopkins as Odin in this movie alone is the scene when he's banishing Thor and he's just shouting, and it just is so intimidating. He's such a strong character, and Anthony Hopkins playing him just plays him masterfully, and it's probably the best choice. I honestly cannot imagine any other actor playing the role of Odin, even though he's really just a side character. I just think he plays him so brilliantly. I can't imagine anyone else playing him. You also have Natalie Portman playing Jane Foster, and just like Pepper Potts, I've never been a Jane Foster fan. The announcement that she's coming back for Thor 4, I do not really care. I have no ambition to see her again. I was kind of happy that we didn't see her in Thor 3 because I kind of find her to be a boring, very much of a generic love interest, and she doesn't really add much to it. And then her kind of group of Kat Dennings, who I don't really like Kat Dennings. I think her character is really boring and she's very annoying. She's not as annoying. She's a lot more annoying in the second one. She's annoying in this one, but she's way more annoying in the second one. And at least in this movie, she's got funny moments. And I don't know the actor's name, but he plays Dr. Eric Selvig in this movie, who of course he's also in Good Will Hunting, and I think he's a great actor and he is great in this movie. He kind of makes that group a little bit more interesting because he's just a great actor. Then also you got Tom Hiddleston playing Loki, who I think is actually hilarious. He actually auditioned to play Thor, didn't get Thor because I don't think he really would have played it. I don't think he really would have worked as Thor. I just don't think that would have worked. But he plays Loki phenomenally. Of course he does. Everyone knows he does. Every time he pops up in something, everyone's excited to see him again just because he's great as his character. And then finally we do have Chris Hemsworth as Thor, and he's great in this. This is not his best performance as Thor. It's nowhere near his best performance as Thor. But even though he gets hilarious in the later movies, you can see a good bit of humor throughout this. Like, he's got great moments, like the two scenes in particular that kind of stood out to me is when he goes into the pet shop and demands a horse, or when he's at the diner and actually, you know what? I'm just going to show you the scene.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
Everyone does quote that scene because it is hilarious. It's an iconic scene at this stage. Thor smashing his cup on the ground. Everyone loves that scene. But one of the weirdest choices they decide to make for this movie is giving him blonde eyebrows. I have no idea why they made it. Every time I watch this movie, I'm like, why the blonde eyebrows? It makes no sense to me, completely baffling. But they also made a decision to ditch the helmet, which I assume they filmed a bit, they seen the helmet on and goes, okay, no, this doesn't work, because it really doesn't work. It looks good in the first scene in the movie when we see him. We get to see him wear the helmet. Of course he does wear for a very small bit in Thor Ragnarok, but if Thor was going around wearing that, I don't think I could take him seriously. And our main villains of this movie is the Frost Giants, and I completely forgot they were the villains of this movie as well. I also forgot Loki was a Frost Giant. I knew Loki was adopted, but I completely forgot he was a Frost Giant. So when he got revealed as a Frost Giant, it was kind of a shock for me as well. Even though I knew it, it was just, I completely forgot because it's been years since I've seen this movie. And as the Frost Giants, as our villains, they are extremely forgettable. they're really forgettable. They're really boring. They're really generic. There's nothing really interesting to the Frost Giants besides their look. You do have the battle with them on, I'm gonna say Jotunheim they called it, and even though to see the fight scene with Thor for the first time, it was interesting to see it, but it also was kind of boring. The CGI was overly, it was really noticeable. It looked more like a cutscene in a PS2, PS3 video game. Nothing really looked that nice. None of the characters besides Thor and Loki kind of really stood out for me. Of course, you have all the Warriors Tree and Lady Sif, but they're just generic background people to me. They had nothing really interesting going on in the scene. And then when we get revealed that, oh yeah, again, another thing I completely forgot, Idris Elba is in the MCU. I completely forgot he played Heimdall. As soon as he came up, I'm like, oh yeah, Idris Elba's in this universe. I completely forgot. That just shows how minor and how forgettable he is in this role. Some people are probably like getting mad at me now for saying this, but I completely forgot he was in this movie, and you can't really blame me. He's not really in this franchise that much. It was definitely a weird decision to base this movie, majority of it, on Earth, and it kind of slows it down a good bit. We kind of get a good bit of the movie when it's just Jane and Thor kind of talking about science and magic and now how it's pretty much the same thing. We get to see just Jane hitting Thor with the car a good bit. We see Thor walking around New Mexico in random clothes rather than in his big armor walking around Asgard, which would have been a lot more interesting to see. We also get a Hawkeye cameo in this movie, which is a horrible cameo. It is really bad. It's really forgettable. Do not like it. You see him going to reach for a gun, and then he gets a bow and arrow instead. He goes up and he gets he's tempted to shoot Thor with an arrow, and it's a bad cameo. It's not good. It's kind of showing off people like, oh yeah, Hawkeye's coming, but who gives a shit that Hawkeye is coming? And the way it's just like Black Widow gets a great introduction in Iron Man 2, and the introduction they gave Thor before he comes into the Avengers, it's just laughably bad. But then you do have Coulson in this movie, and Coulson's great in this movie. He's good in the first two Iron Man movies, but this is when I actually started to like Coulson a lot. I love how Thor calls him Son of Cole, because he says, I'm Agent Coulson, and he hears Cole, son, and he goes, oh my god, Son of Cole, and it's hilarious, absolutely. I laughed out loud the first time I heard it because I completely forgot about it. That just shows how funny Thor was at the start. So people saying he does a complete 180 and he's a completely different character. No, Thor was funny from the very start. He just became funnier throughout the movies. Now, there isn't a lot of battles throughout this movie, but the main battle, the probably more interesting battle, is the one with the Destroyer. But a lot of it's filmed in slow motion, and when action scenes are filmed in slow motion, I don't really like it. I think it's kind of a lazy way of doing action. Instead of doing really quick and pace, they just slow it down because it kind of seemed a lot easier for them to show off. So I'm not really a fan of slow motion in action sequence, and the fact that this movie kind of relies on it an awful lot, I didn't really find the action in this movie to be interesting. But the Destroyer itself, I kind of would like to see him again. He looks cool, he's got a cool power, and he's very intimidating looking because he is so massive as well. The other fight scene we have is the fight scene at the end on the Rainbow Road with Thor and Loki, and I love how it ends. I love how Thor knocks Loki down and he just leaves the hammer on his chest so Loki can't do anything. I think that's a great way to end. It's hilarious. It's Thor actually thinking of how to use his weapon against someone else because only he can lift it up. So of course Loki won't be able to get up. I just think it's a really smart way of keeping Loki down. Of course we do also see him destroy the Rainbow Bridge, which it's alright. Like maybe back then seeing it for the first time, it would have been a bit more interesting. It would have been like, oh my god. But knowing where we're at now, the fact that the big ending to the first Thor movie was him just destroying the Rainbow Road is very anticlimactic, and it's not really anything good. And as well, Loki's fake out death scene at the end. Did anyone actually think he died? Because I'm pretty sure at this stage, this would have came out May of 2011. The Avengers coming out of the following year. I imagine a lot of people knew Loki was going to be the bad guy in the following Avengers movie, and did anyone actually think they were actually going to kill him off there? And as far as, yeah, and the post-credit scene even reveals he's alive, so why did they do that? They will fake get death for Loki, which is one of, how many did we get? We're up to, he died in Thor 2, and he died in Avengers Infinity War, so this is his first of 3 fake out deaths. So the fake out death, I'm not really a fan of it in this movie. Just in general, I don't really like fake out deaths, especially like this. Some of them can work, but the Loki deaths have just, Thor 2 I think is the best fake out death, but the rest of them I don't really like. One of the greatest things about this movie is the theme song. It's just so epic. It's such an entertaining one. It builds up for the fantasy, and it's just, I really enjoyed the theme song. And I haven't given a thought about the theme song. I completely forgot about it. As soon as I started playing, I'm like, oh yeah, Thor's got a great theme song, which really does not get enough credit. No way. This theme song, I was amazed, and how I don't understand how I forgot this theme song. It's just so catchy. It's so epic, and I really liked it. But the movie overall, I would have to say, is a really boring movie. It really is. Not really a lot happens. Big Thor, Asgard and all that, and they base it on Earth. I think is a really bad decision. It's probably one of the most forgettable of the Marvel introduction movie, or the Marvel origin story. You know what? It probably is the most boring and generic Marvel origin story. I haven't seen in a couple of years, and even though it's been a couple of years, I have never had any ambition to go back. If I wasn't doing this series now, I probably wouldn't have watched Thor anytime soon, because honestly, it is really boring, and I really didn't really enjoy myself watching it. I found myself watching this movie and kind of clocking out a bit and just kind of zoning out, because I really wasn't interested to see what was happening on screen, and it's just, I find it to be really boring. So that's my review for the first Thor movie. If you want to let me know your thoughts on the movie in the comment section down below, go ahead and let me know your thoughts down there. If you want to see my review for Captain America: The First Avenger, make sure you click that subscribe button so you can come back next Friday when I do my movie review for Captain America: The First Avenger. This is one I'm actually really excited for. This is probably one of, if not my favourite, of the Marvel origin stories, and I'm actually really excited to watch Captain America: The First Avenger, because it's been a while, and I always do tend to enjoy this movie, so I am really looking forward to watching it and then doing my review next week. So if you want to see it, again, click that subscribe button. But as always, thanks for watching.